Hi, it's Pinks from Little Baby & Co. Recently we've been shortlisted for the Butterfly Awards in the category of Awareness Advocate, and it was quite a last minute shortlisting, so we're quite unprepared with our video, if I'm honest. But I felt to bring awareness would be to read some people's raw experience and tell you about the ugly face of miscarriage that a lot of people don't actually know about it. I'll apologise because I am going to be reading from my phone because it's quite a long story and it's quite emotional, and it's something that happened recently. So I'm going to go ahead and read the story about one of our families that we've looked after. We have decided to be brutally honest with it because long story short, you'll hear the long story in a minute, but I made a huge mistake on Little Baby & Co, and it's something that will really haunt me for the rest of my life. I'm hoping that in speaking so frankly, we hope to bring about true awareness to the ugly face of miscarriage that many people may suffer but rarely speak about. Within this story, I will be describing graphic details of miscarriage that I really do understand that some people just can't face or read. So if you are struggling to cope with a loss, however recent or however long ago it happened, I do advise you to stop watching the video now. I've got full permission, by the way, I've got full permission from our lady to use the names of herself and her babies. Camille came to us for advice at lunchtime on the 18th of August 2018 and told us that she had miscarried her baby at 7:40 AM in the morning. She did not know what to do next, but someone had told her to message Little Baby & Co for advice. Sadly, she has a history of heartache and loss. Her story begins in late November 2014 when she found out she was pregnant. Her pregnancy was going really well until a few days before Christmas, and she went to her GP as she was spotting blood. The doctor checked her over and confirmed her worst fears that she was miscarrying her baby. She booked in for her post-miscarriage scan on the 7th of January 2015. She sadly passed her precious baby on Christmas Day as she was about to serve her Christmas dinner with her family. At the scan, Camille was shocked and surprised, but filled with bittersweet happiness to discover that she had been carrying twins and the second baby had a fluttering little heartbeat. On the 25th of April, she went into labour at 23 weeks exactly. She saw a doctor at Ormskirk Hospital as she has a history of preterm labour. She had told him that she was having contractions, but he brushed aside her motherly instincts as being silly and claimed that she was having Braxton Hicks. After persistence, Camille was eventually put onto delivery suite and was found to be 3 centimetres dilated, where she begged to be transferred to Liverpool Women's Hospital, where she felt her baby would have a better chance of survival, but they refused her again. Her tiny baby Alfie was born breech, which was unknown prior to birth as she hadn't been scanned. The midwife in charge of her care ushered the doctors out of the room, stating that Alfie had passed away during delivery. However, Alfie was actually born alive and curled his little hand around his mummy's little finger as if to say, "Help me, mummy." She begged for the doctor to come back, but unfortunately after an hour waiting it was too late to save Alfie, and he was left to pass away with no palliative care. Just weeks after Alfie's funeral, she found out she was pregnant with baby Archie. Things started to go wrong from around 14 weeks, so she had to have an Arabian pessary fitted, which failed. At 19 weeks, she went to hospital and was found to be already 2 centimetres dilated and need an emergency stitch to hold baby in. She came round and they told her they had to push Archie back up and mentioned that he had loads of hair. At 24 weeks and 5 days, she went into labour where it was found that she was suffering sepsis. Everything was done to try and stop delivery, but unfortunately Alfie came at 25 weeks. He was doing really well, and they were even talking about taking away his ventilator and moving him on to CPAP. Then tragedy struck, and it was found that he was suffering meningitis, which had gone into the cavity of his brain. He fought bravely for a week, but his organs were failing. As a family, they had to make the decision to remove all life support so that he could pass peacefully in his mummy and daddy's arms. He continued to fight bravely for 19 minutes without ventilation until his body gave up at exactly 3 weeks old, and he was born on World Prematurity Day. Camille knew she was losing another baby due to bleeding and decided that she wanted to catch the baby. Each time she went to the loo, she would pee into a container. This is when she came to us. We advised her to put the baby into water, as urine would be too strong for her little one's skin. We normally advise an early gestation baby to be put into saline, as it helps to keep baby in the best condition. We know this would have been way too much information for Camille to cope with at the time, so we didn't mention this, and we advise using a teaspoon to transfer baby into water. We often get the feel for what type of information certain parents could cope with hearing, and this was such a situation. Not being clear in regards to using saline was our first mistake. She was in too much shock to do this herself, so she asked her baby's daddy to do it, and instinctively they made the right decision to put baby in the fridge. At a partner's mum's home, which is something that we always advise to do, so thank God that she did this. The reason the baby was not at their home was because their children did not know that she was pregnant yet, let alone losing the baby. The children needed sheltering, as they have not only witnessed the loss of their 2 brothers, but also just lost their uncle, which is Camille's brother, not even a month ago on the 21st of July to brain cancer. We began preparing a care package of keepsakes, a blankie, an angel wrap with 2 penny bears, as Camille wanted to give her baby a burial in a plant pot at home. But tragedy struck again 2 days later, and she passed another baby on the 20th of August this year. Unbeknown to her, she was actually pregnant with twins. Both losses were confirmed by her doctor later that day. We sent her out a package with twin sets that these tiny precious babies could be... We sent out 2 sets so the twins could be given dignity. I mentioned that she may be able to have a funeral, which I would inquire about, so I called the local funeral home to find out information and start the arrangements for her. I came back with an answer that she was hoping for, which was yes, and that she could have a funeral. I called her and she told me on the phone that the babies had started to change, and I was worried that they were becoming too delicate. So I said that putting them into saline solution would be the best for them to keep their condition, as I was worried about how they would deteriorate and not make it to the funeral. I said to her to use a sieve above her sink and transfer the babies with a teaspoon. Camille didn't want to do this. She was really worried about doing so, but I advised her that it would be the best thing. That was our second mistake. Again, this will haunt me forever. As she was transferring them from the tub onto a large measuring spoon, they fell apart and dropped onto the bathroom sink into the plug hole. In a panic, she went to her bedroom out of earshot of her children and called the funeral directors. But without her realising, a little girl of 8 years old had gone into the bathroom to use the loo and washed her hands and washed the babies away. Sorry. I'll never forgive myself because I advised her to do this against her will. And I feel that I've deprived her of the funeral that she deserved. It was too late to do anything. And now not only does the mum not have babies to bury, but she's racked with guilt because she went against her own instincts to do this. Although me and Camille spent a couple of hours arguing back and forth on the Little Baby and Co page whose fault it was. Well, it was Phil absolutely awful, and so will Camille. Because ultimately it was my bad advice that led to her extra heartache. She named the babies Lucy and Layla. And I picture them as tiny little mermaids floating away into the sea. I don't think people realise until it happens to them how horrifying miscarriage can be. It's not just a case of bleeding at home and a few cramps that a lot of people associate with miscarriage. There are horrific situations that many of us have been there. I've been there myself with my own babies and catching them before they fall into the toilet. This is the ugly face of miscarriage, and there needs to be more awareness on this because there are women suffering. There are hospitals that are just not recognising this. I don't have anything else to add.